We had Battles of Legends reveals yesterday on different content creator channels. They opened up the product, and we have the full set list over here. And I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk about it on stream and give you guys my opinion on some of the primarily new stuff in the set, right? Because everyone has their own opinion on whether the set overall is good or bad, you know, with the reprints and all that kind of stuff. I will say just honorable mentions, you know, Sprite Blue, Diviner, Kurikara, Substitute, End of Anubis, Snatch Steel. There's a good chunk of solid reprints in this, more than I was expecting from Battles of Legends. I feel like, you know, I was kind of pleasantly surprised by that. I historically I felt like the Battles of Legends sets have been worse than this one, and this makes it pretty solid, actually, in my opinion, overall. But I wanted to take a little bit of a focus on some of the new archetypes in here, or some of the legacy support for older archetypes that I've seen those cards before, so this is not me blind reacting to these cards, and I've already kind of selected which cards I wanted to talk about or not. We're not going to talk about every single thing in this set, or like read through every single thing in this set. I've just kind of picked a couple archetypes that I wanted to mention and let you guys know what I think of these. So we're going to go through one by one. And then in the upcoming weeks, because right now I'm kind of focused in my mind, I'm focused on German Nationals, which is coming up this weekend. After that, I think we're gonna take some time to test these archetypes and see if they also like put them to the test. Right now, I'm just theorizing on whether they're good or not. In the upcoming weeks, we're gonna put some of these to the test. But yes, let's go one by one. Let's start with a very small one, which is the Toy archetype, which, as far as I know, only consists of 3 cards, which is Toy Tank, Toy Soldier, and Toy Box. These are cards that when I read them for the first time, I felt like they read like solid cards, but I felt like they didn't have an application yet, because these guys are basically they basically are like artifact kind of cards, where you set the monsters into your spell and trap zones. And if they are sent to the graveyard from the spell and trap zone as set cards, they summon themselves out and they do something. And they have this really interesting spell card that lets you put both of the monsters into the spell and trap zone from the deck immediately for you to use them as fodder for other stuff. And so I felt like those were, when I read them for the first time, they were relatively good cards. But they were lacking a home, because you need like something that has synergy with sending cards from your spell and trap cards to the graveyard. Now, in the OCG, after they've announced these cards, they actually got something, and that was Whitewoods. And Whitewoods is a deck that is apparently playing these cards, right? And so I think that was worth mentioning, that these guys are actually not bad, I think, right? I don't think right at Battles of Legends release you're going to see much of these, but I think with Whitewoods in Infinite Forbidden, there's definitely a potential that these cards will see some play in the future, and they are quite cool. They are quite cool, cool cards. I think it's kind of cool. So I wanted to bring these up as like an honorable mention right at the start. I think those are worth taking a look at if you are looking forward to the Whitewoods archetype. Next up, we've got Infernoids in the set, which are solid. Overall is my first impression of Infernoid. They get I think the highlight is the fusion monster, because it says if it's fusion summoned, you banish an Infernoid from the grave, and you get to send Infernoid monsters with different names from the deck to the graveyard equal to the level. So if you banish a big Infernoid monster, you get to foolish a lot of Infernoids. And if it's sent to the graveyard or banished, you can add a void spell trap from your deck to your hand, which is giving the deck some synergy with the ability to also send cards from your extra deck to the graveyard. It's a pretty good card. And I don't know if it's enough to make Infernoid really powerful. I'd have to try it myself. I personally think it's not going to be super meta relevant, but this card is definitely pretty good. They also get this Link 4, which I think when I read this Link 4 for the first time, I thought it was solid, but it felt like it was a little bit, it wasn't enough for a Link 4, if you know what I mean. Like, I felt like investing all this fodder to make a Link 4 that didn't feel worth it to me. However, Promethean Princess does make it a little bit easier because obviously it is a fire monster, so you can just make Princess, bring back like Decatron, and then link it into this, which puts it into perspective. Like effectively, as long as Princess is legal, this is not really a Link 4. This is more like a Link 3. If Hida is in the format, it's more like almost a Link 2, right? And if you put it into that perspective, it's a much better card. So I think this card is solid. I don't think it's the main reason why Infernoid is going to pop off or anything like that, but it's a solid addition to the deck. And then they got 2 spell cards, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but these don't seem completely crazy to me. Like, you've got Void Reignition, which is a card destruction for Infernoids, which is like okay. It does return 11 banished Infernoids into the graveyard. It's pretty good for follow-up, but like that's my my problem with this is that like I don't feel like Infernoid's problem is follow-up. 11? Yeah, 11 is pretty funny. It's pretty funny. Yeah. I think this card is okay. I don't think it's crazy though. People in chat are saying it's like a one of. Like, I can see that. And then you've got Void Breach, which adds a banished Infernoid back to your hand if you control no monsters or only fiends, or it lets you special summon an Infernoid from your hand, which is once again also mostly. I wouldn't think that that's like a 3-of or anything like that. I don't think so. Like that's probably the least exciting one out of these for Infernoid. So obviously, overall, I think Infernoid is getting solid support, but nothing too crazy. I personally am not looking forward. Like, there's other archetypes in here that I think are getting more than what Infernoid is getting, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Like, specifically, the fusion is pretty good. The rest is like kind of whatever, I feel like, but the fusion is pretty good. So that's what Infernoid's getting. And now we're getting into something that I feel like is going to be at least experimented with at competitive level, and that's Ritual Beast. I think Ritual Beast is a deck that obviously it's previously had competitive success in Necros format. That's quite a while ago, but I think this deck is getting some pretty strong support in this set. In the form of, I think it's like 4 new cards, but specifically there's like 2 that I remember being really, really strong, and one of them is Spiritual Beast Tamer Lara. This card gives you, it's technically a double summon for Ritual Beast. Like, you can discard it and immediately normal summon a Ritual Beast. That's okay. It protects from field or graveyard by destruction. And if it's banished, it special summons any Ritual Beast from your deck. And that's pretty broke. Like, the ability to have a Tamer that lets you discard itself into the graveyard to normal summon another time, and then if it's banished, you special any Ritual Beast from the deck. That's really, really strong. So yeah, this card is really, really good. And then you've got this thing, which is probably even better than the other one. It's Ulti Knock You Drago. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. Requires a Tamer and a Beast. Must be special summoned by banishing the above cards you control and or from the graveyard. Can only special summon it once per turn. So what this does, it's basically giving the deck a like Vicious Astrolaud kind of fusion from the graveyard, right? So you just get a free summon from the grave to banish your stuff and summon this for free, which is really strong. You can return it to the extra deck to target a banished Ritual Beast to special it. That is a quick effect as well. But the even more important part about this entire thing is that that's an easy way to banish this card from your graveyard, right? So all you have to do is like discard this card from your hand to get an extra normal summon, and then you banish this from the graveyard to get this out for free, and this also summons one from the deck. So that's pretty solid. Alongside just the fact that Ritual Beast like legitimately has good cards already. Like a lot of the old Ritual Beast stuff is still okay. It holds up okay. So I think those two cards are really, really strong for Ritual Beast. I don't know if it's going to make Ritual Beast good enough, because currently, free support, Ritual Beast is pretty far from good enough, right? But this is the kind of support that makes me want to take a look at it and try it, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but I think it's pretty cool. And they also get a new Link 4, which is also a pretty solid boss monster in my opinion. It is a Link 4, so it's hard to summon, like not super trivial. I don't know if Ritual Beast is super good at cheating out Link 4s nowadays, but like it seems like you have to put a decent amount of effort into. There's Ritual Beast bonds. Yeah, there's definitely ways to do that. But yes, and this thing says you can target one of your banished Ritual Beast cards, return it to the hand or extra deck, then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon a Ritual Beast from your hand. So it does give you a little bit of recursion plus extension when you summon it, right? You get an extra normal summon basically. And then during the opponent's turn, it lets you target a Ritual Beast you control and a card your opponent controls to banish both. So I feel like it's a healthy mix between extension, recovery, and interruption on the opponent's turn. Not the craziest boss monster, but it's got a little bit of everything, so that's all right. And then they got Inheritance, which I think it's good because it helps you with consistency, which has always been an issue for Ritual Beast. But it could have been a little bit better. But it's a continuous spell that boosts your monsters slightly, and it lets you once per turn reveal a Ritual Beast in your hand to add a Ritual Beast with a different type from your deck to your hand and then discard. So it is a searcher. It is good. It's a much needed card. I do think they play 3 copies. I would tend to agree. So it's definitely good enough to see play. But the fact that you already need to have a Ritual Beast in your hand to use it is not ideal. The fact that you have to discard is not even that much of a downside. Like searching and discarding is fine, especially for Ritual Beast, because you can like use the resources in the graveyard. The fact that you already have to have a Ritual Beast in your hand is kind of mid, but it's okay. And then it also has a small bonus if 2 or more monsters are special summoned to your field at the same time. Target a monster on the field, change its battle position. That is relevant in some matchups. Like if you play against Tenpai or something, you can like tag out in the battle phase and put their stuff to defense so they can't attack. It's like this card is solid, right? And so overall, I think Ritual Beast is getting a pretty healthy bit of support here, right? Obviously, the highlights, in my opinion, are Lara and the new fusion. But the other two are also nothing to scoff at, right? We've got a new Link 4 option, and we've got a new Consistency Searcher card. Even though it is not the best it can be, it's still solid, right? And so that's good stuff. I want to take a look at Ritual Beast at some point in the upcoming weeks. I definitely think it's got potential. Next up, there is Ice Barrier support. Let's start with Mirror Mage. Mirror Mage is pretty exciting, actually. Like the Ice Barrier stuff, I think is like I feel like Ritual Beast is something that people already expect to be solid because also it's been performing in the OCG. Ice Barrier, I think, is I think that deck's low-key got potential. I don't think it's going to be insane or anything, but I feel like these cards are something you can mess around with. So Mirror Mage of the Ice Barrier has 2 very good effects. The more important part is actually the second effect. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add an Ice Barrier card that's banished or in your deck to your hand. So like a really good kind of graveyard effect, no matter what you do with it, whether you Foolish it, whether you discard it from your hand, whether you summon it and make a synchro with it, you get a search, which is pretty good. And that's solid. You can also tribute 1 other effect monster, special up to 3 Ice Barrier tokens, which are level 1, and if you do, increase this card's level by that amount. Also, during this turn, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except water synchro monsters. Now, that is something that I've seen people use in some combos. Obviously, it locks you for water synchros for the entire turn, even before you use it. So if you're using hybrid versions of this, like I've seen sprite versions with ice barriers mixed in and all that kind of stuff. If you're doing that, you won't be using that first effect at all. You're only using it as the second effect, basically, right? But I've seen some decks that play just pure ice barrier stuff and do like some crazy stuff with the tokens, honestly, because you can make like, you can still make Coral Dragon, you can make the Crocodile, because you have a lot of non-tuners. The Crocodile draws you a lot of cards in ice barriers, so that's kind of the vibe there. So that's neat, right? That's a neat card. It also is an aqua, so you can make totally awesome with this in sprites, and it makes Swap Frog a 1-card toad again, because there's an ice barrier spell that lets you revive an ice barrier from the graveyard. So what you can do is you can summon Swap Frog, you can send Mirror Mage of the ice barrier. It searches the Reborn spell, and then you reborn Mirror Mage, and Swap Frog plus Mirror Mage is now a toad, right? So you can easily go gigantic summon Swap Frog to make a toad again in sprites, for example. So that is something to be aware of, right? And there's also other ice barrier support that is mostly relevant if you are playing a pure ice barrier deck. I feel like they've got some old stuff as well that's not new, that's pretty good already. Like they have I know they have a non-once per turn Rhoda as well. Like there's some pretty good ice barrier cards from back in the day. Like I think Hexa is not even that old, I think. But yeah. So this guy is also okay, actually. It's a level 6 monster. If you control an ice barrier, special summons itself from the hand. And if it's normal or special, you get to special summon a level 5 or lower ice barrier from hand or graveyard. And it's also Abyss Dweller if you control another ice barrier monster. So that's a pretty solid card. Yeah, Speaker, Healer, Revealer, I think those are some cards to take a look at. I don't know all their effects by heart, but I do want to take a look at it at some point in the future. So the ice barrier cards, I also think have solid potential, most likely in combination with other archetypes. I think my personal prediction is that pure ice barrier is not going to be the way to go. I think that these cards can, like we've already talked about, you know, like different sprite variations maybe or whatever. Like I think that's something that you can mess around with and maybe have success with. And they also get a new synchro, which is technically, it's not called ice barrier, but it's an ice barrier, right? It takes a water tuner and a non-tuner, and I think it's level 10. Once per chain, if your opponent special summons a monster, you can special summon an ice barrier from hand, deck, or extra deck or graveyard. Then you can change one opponent's attack position monster to defense position. That's only twice per turn. If this face-up synchro summoned card in its owner's control leaves the field by your opponent, you can summon an ice barrier synchro monster from your extra deck, which is treated as a synchro summon. So you can like you can summon Trishula if they try to out this. But more importantly, the summoning 2 from hand, deck, extra deck, or graveyard, you can summon some pretty nasty floodgates with that. Because ice barrier has a lot, like we've already looked at this guy, which is basically an Abyss Dweller, while you have other ice barriers. But they have a lot of old ones that are completely broken when you have multiple ice barriers on the field. So that is something to look out for. So even though they are locked into water synchros, with this guy, like between this guy and the crocodile, I think you can do some pretty nasty end boards still. So I think ice barriers are worth to take a look at some point. Moving on to Genex. This is an archetype I'm not as excited about. I'll say it. I'll say it. I don't love Genex, but let's still go over it. They get a pretty crazy link monster. So repair Genex controller requires a level 4 or lower Genex monster. You can only special it once per turn. If this card is link summoned, add a Genex monster from graveyard to your hand. Once per chain, if a Genex monster is added to your hand except by drawing it, you can immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon a Genex monster. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except by synchro summon using a Genex tuner as material. So basically, because it's once per chain, and because a lot of the old Genex cards that didn't even see play ever. And some of them saw play, but like most Genex cards from back in the day actually let you add more Genex cards on summon, right? They have like an absurd amount of Stratos going on for some reason, right? In various different shapes and forms, right? They like, I don't know, they got like Blast Fan, Power Planner, Undyne, like so many ways to just like keep summoning and keep searching. So the plan with this guy is basically you summon it, and then every time you resolve one of those search another Genex, you can immediately normal summon it and use it, right? So you just spam all those. Basically, they're all gadgets. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. They're like all kind of gadgets, and you summon this, which gives you infinite normal summons, right? The problem with this entire concept is that if this thing gets negated, you're playing a deck with like 15 gadgets in 2024. So this card, as broken as it can be if it works out, this card, in my opinion, is just way too crazy of a choke point. This reminds me a lot of the Magispector Link monster and like Junk Speeder, those kind of cards. That's what it reminds me of, because yes, if it goes through, you can do completely crazy things with it. But it just has Hand Trap Magnet written all over it, right? Like the Magispector Link monster is pretty broken, but it's the only card in the entire deck that can be targeted. So obviously that's what's going to get impermed or veilered, and that's pretty rough. And like Junk Speeder, same thing, and this thing also same thing, right? So while the potential for this card is pretty crazy, I've seen some of the replays, I've seen some of the videos, I've seen some of the combo tutorials. Yes, you can do crazy one card combos if this thing does not get stopped, but I think it's just way too vulnerable, and personally not something that I really like. So I don't think, even though they get more Genex support, even though the other stuff is like solid, nothing too crazy here, it's mostly really about the Genex controller. I think the concept is not great behind this. If you want to try it out, but don't get too mad if your Genex controller gets impermanence, because that's kind of what you're signing up for, right? Like, I could see this deck being like a deck where you have to play like so many ways to deal with Imperm and Veiler that is like not even fun anymore. Like, you'd have to play like Cross Out, Called By, Soravis probably, like friggin' Sky Striker, what's it called? The one that makes your extra monster zone unaffected, Eagle Booster, like that kind of shit, you know? Like, that's probably the kind of deck you're looking at, right? So if you're into that kind of deck, then by all means go for it, but I personally don't think it's going to be that great. So that's Genex. And then we've got this thing. Now, this thing was not announced. It was obviously speculated because it would make a lot of sense for this to be in the set, but we didn't know for sure if this was here. It's Phantom of Yubel. And now Yubel is a deck that's already pretty good in the TCG at the moment. It's not like top tier, but it was already played before this card. But with this card, I think it's going to be very, very strong. So let's just quickly see what this card does for the deck. It's a fusion. It requires a Yubel monster plus a fiend with 0 attack and defense, which the deck has plenty of. Must be special summoned from your extra deck by shuffling the above cards from hand, field, and or graveyard into the deck extra deck. So this thing is once again similar to the Ritual Beast thingy. It's a free fusion from the graveyard, right? You can use stuff from your hand or field, but obviously you're going to try to use it from the graveyard because then it's free. That's when you get the most value out of this thing. It says cannot be used as fusion material, but you know what's funny? This thing itself is not a fusion summon. So if you have one in the graveyard, you can summon another Yubel fusion by shuffling that one back. Can you not? No, you can't. Why? It doesn't say it's counted as a fusion summon. It's a ruling? Okay, that doesn't make any sense. but okay. Well, apparently I was chatting. It's a Cyber Dragon ruling. Okay, I looked for the phrase of this counts as a fusion summon, and I thought if it doesn't count as a fusion summon, then it also isn't fusion material. I don't know how that makes sense, but anyways, moving on. Can't be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. When your opponent, and this is where it's crazy, because normally you are not really expecting a fusion monster that you get for free to do a lot of stuff, right? Like, you look at Vicious Astrolaud, for example, and it's like, that thing doesn't do that much. Like, you're just using it for the free body. This thing actually has a crazy effect too, right? When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you contribute this card. That effect becomes your opponent destroys one Yubel in their hand, deck, or field. So it's basically a monster negate. Right? It's a monster negate. It insulates you from stuff like Nibiru. It's pretty strong because your opponent activates a monster and suddenly that turns into something that's good for you because destroying Yubel from hand, deck, or field is good for you, right? So it's a free fusion summon. It's a monster negate, and it recycles some of your Yubels and Fiends. Right? So it's really, really strong card. The literal only thing that could have been better about this, I feel like, is if it was level 10. So you could make like Varudras with it. But honestly, you don't even need to make Varudras with this because, you know, it's just a negate on its own. So but it's really, really strong. And the Yubel deck is already good. And this card just this card is just like insane, right? Level 9 actually, yeah, people in chat are pointing out 9 is actually good because you can make like Chaos Angel with it. You can like use it in other ways with the field spell. Yeah. This card is very strong, and I think it's going to make Yubel a meta relevant deck. Whether it's going to be the best deck while we still have Snake Eyes at pretty much full power at the moment, I'm not sure. I think it's definitely going to be like tier 2 or tier 1 at the very minimum though, right? So that thing's pretty good. Do you think it's a 3 of? So most lists that I'm seeing do play 3, because there's another thing about this card that I find very concerning, is that it doesn't say you can only summon it once per turn, right? Like you can summon multiples, right? Unless I'm missing something. Which is also just crazy, right? You can just like, you can only use the negation once, but you can just like summon them out multiple times, right? To just, so you keep one around and you use the other ones as like link fodder and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely going to be at least 2, but I would say probably try to play 3. I don't know if this is going to be expensive. Well, I mean, it's probably going to be somewhat expensive. I don't know exactly how expensive. But yeah. And that's the things I wanted to highlight from Battles of Legends. Obviously, there is more cards in here, or there are more cards in here that are new. I've looked through those this morning. The other stuff doesn't seem that exciting to me unless I missed something. Like this guy is like okay. These guys are not complete ass, but also nothing crazy. The new Sky Striker support is okay. Camellia is not in here, is it? It's only Temperance and this guy. Like it's the Sky Striker cards that they put in here are not actually that good, so I don't know if that one. Oil is okay. This is salvage for fire monsters, but like, yeah. I think we highlighted the most important things about Battles of Legends, but yes. So this is also going to make it onto YouTube. So if you've watched this on YouTube, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of the Battles of Legends set. You know, the reprints, the new archetypes. Which one are you looking for trying? And yeah, make sure to like and subscribe. Say goodbye to YouTube chat. And thank you for watching. Peace. Where are we at, chat? On Battles of Legends. Your bits message? Oh, you mean the Ritual Beast one? Yeah, I read it during the while I was. Yeah. I mean, yes, if you have Shifter in Ritual Beast, that's another thing. Like Ritual Beast is a Shifter deck, and Shifter actually helps you combo, I feel like. The only thing about Shifter that's a little weird is that if you Shifter at the start of your turn, you cannot summon the fusion for free, right? Because you get nothing into the graveyard. But maybe that's still fine. But that's my like not really a problem with Shifter, but yeah. Do you have the old Ritual Beast cards? I did pick up the Ritual Beast cards when they announced this support. Which in hindsight, was that smart? They reprinted a bunch of them I saw. Like I picked up like Rampengus and stuff, but that wasn't necessary. No Elder reprint? Oh, I have Elders. Do you want to check Elder price? Uh-oh. So if you... Okay, I mean, 15 bucks is a lot, yes. Does it have no reprints? Yeah, no, it's all OCG reprints, yeah. Yeah, I mean, people like Ritual Beast. Unironically, the people, like, there's a lot of people who loved Ritual Beast in 2016. So yeah, here we are. Is that the only one that they didn't reprint? Is there anything, like, is there any other Ritual Beast that's, like... Canahawk, Steeds. Okay, but like Canahawks is super rare. Surely that's not... Yeah, that's not crazy. Nightmare Throne. I mean, look. Why does it spike so much? I don't understand why it spiked so much. Like, come on. If you were planning to play Yubel, how does this release come as a shock to you right now? Like, come on, man. We knew that was gonna happen eventually. I don't know how much this card... Well, how much was this card on release? Like 20? Okay, I guess it hasn't gone up that much then. It's expensive. I mean, it is one of the best cards in Legacy of Destruction. Like, Legacy of Destruction doesn't have that much, like, crazy value stuff in it, right? Nightmare Throne is, like, probably the most expensive card outside of Quarters now. Yep. It's not close. It's like Nightmare Throne and Nightmare Apprentice. Those are like the two most expensive cards. And then the next one is already Varudras. So yeah. Orbanon, thank you for the Prime. Appreciate that. You still put names in the graveyard thanks to Ulti Canahawk, so it literally doesn't matter if you undershifter. Oh, right. You can. Is it return? They do return stuff, right? I don't know. I'm a fan of Battles of Legends. I think this Battles of Legends set feels a lot more exciting than previous Battles of Legends sets. Maybe that's just me not really remembering well, but I don't remember a Battles of Legends that has brought solid archetypes like this paired with this amount of solid reprints. I'm happy with this. It's cool. Like I wanna try out Yubel. I wanna try out the Ice Barrier cards. I wanna try out the Ritual Beast cards. You know. All right. I can't believe they kept the name for that one card just Oil. I thought about this yesterday. Is Oil, or like Farfa, I think Farfa said it in his opening. Is Oil the shortest Yu-Gi-Oh card name now? Is there a card that has just 3 letters? Seven. Okay, but that's a digit. Oh yeah, Umi. Umi. That's true. Umi already existed. Eva, yeah. But there's nothing with 2, right? It's going to... In German... Oh, that's true. In German, it's going to be the shortest. Because in German, it's just Öl. Yeah, it's probably going to be the shortest German card in existence. Öl. Just Öl. Okay. All right. So much for that. I am looking forward to trying these decks. Sorry that we're not doing it this week, but I'm kind of low on time this week in terms of streaming content and all that kind of stuff. And I also don't want to spend the brain power to learning new decks the week before German nationals that are not legal for German nationals. That is not something I wanna do right now. So we're gonna focus on that before the European Championship for sure.